Everyone, I'm going to call the meeting in order. Welcome to all of those up on the screen. And looks like we have all of council here seated with us and present in council chambers this evening, along with several of our administration team. I'm going to read a land acknowledgement to start. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wyandot peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all of the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on these lands from time immemorial. And with that, I'll now ask if everyone can stand for our national anthem. Public presentation. This evening, we have Joanna Conrad. She's the Executive Director of Essex County Diversion regarding our youth diversion in Essex. And Joanna, I see you up on the screen. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Your Worship Meloche and fellow council members for having me here with you this evening, as well as to everyone else who is present. So just Allow me to take a brief moment to introduce myself. As Mayor Meloche just stated, my name is Joanna Conrad, and I'm the Executive Director of Youth Diversion, a position that I have held since 2011. Youth Diversion supports youth ages 6 to 18 throughout Windsor and Essex County through effective prevention and intervention services. Additionally, I am a part-time instructor at St. Clair College, where I've taught various courses in the community justice program for over 9 years. In addition to teaching, I have also developed several courses for the college, most notably the Restorative Justice Practices course, which also happens to be a favorite of mine to teach. I have over 15 years of experience working in the criminal justice field, including one-on-one with inmates at institutions like the Ontario Correctional Institute in Brampton and the Ryan Correctional Facility in Detroit, Michigan, which is now closed. So I provide a snapshot for you of my professional history just as a preface, so that when we discuss topics with respect to youth and crime, it provides some substance around the information I share, as my job involves me living and breathing youth justice, essentially educating not only myself on a regular, but also others, including police officers, the community, and so on and so forth with respect to youth crime, the impact that it has on the individual, the victim, and of course, the family unit and the community at large. So to dive into matters this evening, I'm going to provide a little background on how I came to be here before you this evening. As I'm sure you're all aware, there's been a significant amount of attention to youth crime in the last couple of months, especially around Essex County. Following the dance incident where a youth brought a gun to the dance at the rec center, I reached out to Councillor Sherry Bondi to address my concerns over the lack of diversion referrals from the LPP. So this led to a meeting between myself, Councillor Sherry Bondi, CAO Doug Sweet, Mayor Meloche, and Councillor Kim Verbeek. Now I'm here before you this evening to paint a better picture for you of what youth diversion does and how it has been doing what we've been doing in the community since 1980 as a next step. So we accept both justice and outreach referrals, which means that the police and the courts can refer both pre-charge and post-charge referrals, providing young people with a second chance. Or we accept referrals from the public, which includes parents and educators, as well as community partners, to refer as a proactive measure, preventative measure, and sometimes at times also an intervention when young people are making poor choices. I will preface as well by saying that I have never and will never say that youth diversion is the end all be all and that we can save everybody. As much as I would like for this to be true, I'm also realistic, and I speak from a personal perspective as I myself was involved in diversion as a youth. It didn't change my life in the moment. However, it changed the course of my life's path. And a friend of mine, Tim Felfoldi, was not afforded diversion as a young person, and his life was very different from mine. And I'd like to share a video with you at this time that I think is available for you to view. Am I right? Are we able to view it?
Joanna, just give us 1 second.
Sure. I can also pull it up on my screen if necessary.
Hi, my name's Tim, and I'm a tattoo artist. It's basically the love of my life. I get so much comfort and joy and creativity out of it. But at 17, I was convicted for murder. I would never have guessed when I was shoplifting as as a child that would have ended up leading to a murder a few years later.
So you've been afforded with a second chance. Not everyone gets this opportunity. Consider yourself lucky. Take it for what it is. Obviously, the police officer that's been dealing with you saw something in you. If they hadn't seen it, they wouldn't have offered diversion. Typically what happens is we get your file and you'll get a phone call from one of our staff. Once you get that phone call, they'll set up an appointment for you to come in to meet with us. You'll walk in through the doors. You're going to see the walls that you see behind me. It's super bright. We like to keep things pretty chill in here. You'll come into a welcoming environment. We don't judge you based on your mistakes. At the end of the day, I always say we all make mistakes. Some of us bigger than others. Some of us have been caught, others have not yet, maybe. But regardless, none of us are perfect, and we're definitely not going to judge you based on the worst thing that you've ever done. So I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, what do you know about my life? Or what do you know about what I'm going through right now? And I'll tell you that I actually know more than you think. When I was 16, I was sitting in the exact same spot that you are right now. I was making poor choices and I got caught. And I was charged. I wasn't given the same opportunity that you're being given right now to avoid that charge. So take it. So you might be thinking, that whatever you're here for, whatever the police have you in for, is not really that big of a deal. And maybe you're right. But I can tell you that the reason why I was diverted, perhaps, when I was 16, also wasn't necessarily that big of a deal. It could have been, though. Tim, he also started out with something that really wasn't a big deal.
Because they could lead down the same road that I went down, and it cost me 30 years in prison. You have an option now to walk away. You have an option to turn around and receive help. You don't need to go down a road where everything is taken away, your freedom. If you think you're cool, you don't need youth diversion. When people are offering their hands and they generally are here to help and you refuse it, you're gonna find that you're gonna be alone in a prison cell one day by yourself. I spent 3.5 years in segregation by myself with very little human contact. And those are times that I wish that somebody would extend their hand. Do not lose this opportunity where somebody is trying to help you. While I was in, yes, I was facing a life sentence and I've done 30 years, but I took the things that I had learned from the bad and I turned it into good to give back, to help people. This is one of the reasons why I'm sitting here with you today, because I never had anyone there for me. I don't want you going down the same road as I did. It's a lonely place and I'm out here and I've been out a year now, but I'm still struggling to find my way in society. I've been out of it so long. This is not a life for someone. You have an opportunity to save yourself, save your future.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. As you can tell, not only do I like pink walls, I also liked pink hair for a minute there. So that video was actually created not long ago. It was in partnership with the Windsor Police, and it was created actually as a pre-charge initiative with respect to police officers who are meeting with a young person, offering them diversion. It was intended for them to be speaking to the young person to help them understand perhaps what youth diversion was all about. So while we can't say for sure that diversion would have changed Tim's path, we know that it certainly would not have hurt him either. Certainly it didn't hurt me. And although I was charged and I was diverted through a post-charge sanction, which is how I was afforded the second chance as a teenager myself. So essentially, Tim had shoplifted because he was homeless. And had a service like diversion been in place, perhaps he could have been set up with the proper supports that he did not end up feeling so indebted to someone who actually ended up taking him in when he didn't have a place to stay. And he essentially got into a fight on behalf of this person, which led to the victim's death thereafter. And he was charged with that person's murder. So diversion can not only change the course of a young person's path, as it did with me, it also removes the stigmatization that comes with the label of offender, which of course impacts employment opportunities, reputation, current and future relationships, and so on and so forth. But diversion, and the reason why I'm so thankful to be here in front of you this evening, is the fact that diversion benefits the victim and the community at large as well. Some of you may know that most victims will say that they feel re-victimized by the justice system. Very few ever feel that justice has been served, and even fewer feel that they were provided with information or answers throughout. And that is the sad reality. The community is oftentimes left out of the criminal justice system altogether, only brought in through sensationalization of media reports and or social media, which oftentimes depict the situation erroneously or fuel stereotypes that further divide populations in society. So the beauty of youth diversion is that it holds young people accountable for their actions while examining the underlying reasons for their behavior. Like with Tim, for example, had diversion been in place, perhaps we would have understood that he needed some supports to assist him with that, so he didn't feel so indebted to somebody else. Perhaps he could have been provided with food, shelter, so on and so forth. I can tell you from my professional experience that most youth do not offend just because. We figure out what that just because is at youth diversion, and we work to address it in order to prevent future criminal activity. We also provide victims with voice and throughout with our youth justice committees, which is something that I would actually like to see happen with the 2 youth that were recently referred for the gun incident at the dance and the town for that matter. But that's another conversation for another time. But it also provides the community and awareness piece, which oftentimes debunks various myths or stereotypes that people might have. It provides answers and an opportunity to work together to support the youth in our community to be strong and resilient and productive members of society, which is essentially what we all want. So for whatever reason, the Ontario Provincial Police have simply not been referring, at least not as much as I would like to see happen, and not as much as I know has happened in the past. When I first started working at Diversion back in 2009, I can tell you that we were receiving referrals from both the OPP and Windsor Police almost 50-50. Last year, approximately 33% of our referrals were from Essex County. Since April of this fiscal year, so since April 1st, we've only received 7 referrals from the OPP. In my opinion, these numbers should be higher. The last couple of years have impacted numbers across the board, likely due to the COVID-19 pandemic that influenced the large year-over-year decline in youth crime, not only locally, but across Canada. However, with that being said, I'm not 100% convinced that our youth crime has declined as the stats say they have, COVID or not, particularly when you look at crime rates for people ages 18 plus. There is a significant surge of criminal rates for 18-year-olds, which begs me to question what happened between the eve of that person being 17 and the morning they woke up as an 18-year-old. Criminal activity doesn't just typically begin overnight. What happened and where did we fall short with that person as a youth that they, once they turned 18, were starting to get charged as an adult, and again, could have prevented all of this, perhaps supported, intervened in some way. The key focus of the Youth Criminal Justice Act is to divert youth away from criminal justice, the system itself, whenever possible, as well as focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment, hopefully reducing recidivism in the end. Whatever the case, the Youth Criminal Justice Act certainly provides young offenders with second chances, which is the underlying reason of, or the underlying work of youth diversion and what we do. So while police have the discretion on how to proceed with a youth when dealing with criminal matters, a low-level offense for that matter, in my opinion, they are simply not utilizing diversion as an option for whatever reason. Whether it be lack of knowledge about it, unsure of how to go about it, perhaps maybe a little lazy, whatever. Instead, they're likely proceeding with verbal warnings and/or cautions. At least that's my opinion anyway. And based on what I see going through courts, I'm going to feel confident in my stance there. Proceeding this way, however, is not really helping anyone, as it's only fueling anger and resentment in the community members, feeling unsafe and perpetuating the ideology amongst youth that the system is a joke and that there really is no accountability for them and for them to go on as they please, doing whatever they want. Sir Robert Peel, who is known as the father of modern British policing, said that police are the public and the public are the police. So police do not write the law, they're not above the law, they enforce it, and they are accountable to the communities that they serve. As humans, we oftentimes think like horses with the blinders on, if you can imagine what those blinders look like, right? When they're running through the fields. We oftentimes only see what's in front of us, and sometimes failing to know what's going on all around us, just based on the fact that either the voices aren't loud enough or the issue doesn't impact us. However, when we experience something ourselves, all of a sudden we seem to care more, we take more of an interest, and we are open to exploring things that otherwise perhaps we might not have. My concern is that for whatever reason, we have lost that sense of community and that sense of really paying attention to all of the stuff that's going on here and why it's going on. Oftentimes, my generation and older, for that matter, fail to recognize the pressures that are going on in young people's lives. And sometimes we feel, you know what, I'm going to keep out of this, I'm going to mind my own business. And that seems to be a common trend these days, is let's all just mind our own business.
Ms. Conrad, you have about 30 seconds to a minute to wrap up.
Sorry, okay, so to wrap up, essentially what I'd like to see happen is for us to start thinking about the ripple effect with respect to youth crime, and looking at how we can all start working together to remove those blinders and to really start looking at what we can do together to work towards changing those perspectives with respect to youth crime, and how we're going to keep the community safe going forward. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Conrad. And we enjoyed your presentation to us earlier. And I know that you mentioned that they had 4 steps that the police officers could take. You just want to mention those 4 steps again for me?
Yes, of course. It's either a verbal warning, laying a caution, diverting, or laying a charge.
Diversion's the best because?
Because essentially it's providing accountability where otherwise there wouldn't be. Typically, it's more than providing a warning, which is really nothing other than saying, you know what, don't do it again. But it's also less than them going to court and now being brought through the criminal justice system, where now they are going to be labeled as a young offender and potential stigmatization as a result. Again, not saying that certain crimes don't warrant a criminal charge, but most low-level offenses don't warrant a criminal charge or a criminal record for that matter, because of the negative repercussions on a young person's life in the long run.
And I know that we had a chance to look at some safety measures in the community here last Thursday evening, and you were part of that. You had an opportunity to speak with some of the OPP. We've got new staffing across the county here, and you had an opportunity to speak with some of those persons, and hopefully you've made some inroads into making this program have a step up of recognition.
Yes, I had the opportunity to speak with Inspector Ferguson, and she suggested that I attend a sergeant training in September that's supposed to be occurring. However, there's no information on it yet. And so while I look forward to that, and I will be following up with her with respect to that, I would also like to see us coming together more so as a community to really exploring ways in which we can do more even from that event on Thursday night. I believe that we had the conversation around the graffiti and the vandalism with respect to, how could we address this as a community? What can we do? And I had brought up the idea of perhaps doing like a graffiti cleaning program where, the town could potentially save money from removing graffiti on a regular basis and the cost that's associated with that, to potentially, hosting, let's say, a program, a graffiti removing program once every 2 weeks or what have you, provide some pizza for the kids, whether they're responsible for that or not, but essentially having a youth-led initiative that could potentially even look at doing something positive in the community, removing the graffiti, and again, maybe even the young people that are responsible for that being diverted to youth diversion, being put in a program like that, and then essentially, again, being accountable for something that they've done and understanding the repercussions of that, right? I think that there's more that we could do to hold young people accountable, and it doesn't have to be very complicated.
And I'll ask if council members have anything to add. Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Joanna Conrad. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for reaching out in the first place to initiate all of this discussion. I think it's really helpful and really timely in Essex. I'm still constantly getting calls from both ends of the municipality with children in school and, not enough being done in terms of what's going on there. So I love your Youth Justice Committee. I'm wondering today if, rather than just receiving the presentation, if we can come away with some takeaways. I do know that our CEO, Doug Sweet, was bringing this up with his meetings with the OPP. The chair of the Police Services Board, Kim Verbeek, was bringing up some of the issues too. But I would like us to do more faster, because I feel like now is really timely and people are still looking at us. And I just, got tagged in something that there was more guns going through town, or whether it was airsoft or something. It's in one of the Essex groups. And so I think people are looking to us to show more and more leadership out of what happened with the airsoft guns. So perhaps, I'm not sure, maybe Councillor Verbeek has something like a special police service board meeting, something where we can get the message to the OPP officers at the beginning of summer rather than the end of summer, because that's why I was sending those emails the last few weeks of school saying, divert now while they're still in school, or these children have all summer to get into more bad behavior, right? Like right now they're building the blocks of their foundation, and they're going to build a block down this road or a block down that road. We want to give them the tools to build the blocks down the good roads. Things like, the clothing swaps that we're doing when the children show up and they actually have purchasing power because it's free, making a sense of belonging. Everybody wants to belong, and times are tough with food insecurities right now with families, right? Like as a counselor, I hear it. I know Project Hope in Harrow is going through $1,800 a week in food, and that is basically local residents. So, and those little deals turn into big deals. So we want to have less and less little deals. As a counselor, I'm putting out opportunities all the time. Come volunteer, donate your time, get involved. But so my question to the rest of council, to the chair of Police Services Board, and to you, Joanna, as well, what can we do now rather than just receive this report? Thank you.
Bondi? Any other comments from council members? Councillor Verbeek?
Thanks again, Joanna, for all you do. I've already spoken to you and told you how much it means to me. And I've had several kids in my home in 22 years of fostering that could have probably really benefited from having this entering this program. However, yes, I too see the need to, bring this wonderful presentation to the OPP so that they can get back to, choosing the diversion way prior to, instead of going to the charge or just letting the youth walk away and feel like they got off scot-free. And that's why we have you scheduled for our very first, our next police service board meeting, correct?
I haven't received confirmation about that, but I'm hoping so, yes.
Yes, we do. It's been confirmed.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Councillor Verbeek? Deputy Mayor Bjorkman.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It was a powerful video. It's a powerful message. I have to be honest, I hadn't heard of diversion before a month ago. It's just never been something that was on my radar, and all the work I've done with different schools, activities and that sort of thing. But it's to me, it just sounds like it's a wonderful program. It's something we should be doing. It's something we should be encouraging. So I take that to Councilor Verbeek and the Police Services Board, that's something that as a town, I think we want to direct our police force to say, this is something we want you to look at when it warrants it. And I'll agree, not everything warrants it, to your points as well. But it's a tremendous opportunity to give kids a chance. I used to always say to my kids, we've all made mistakes. I was fortunate to make some mistakes when I was younger, and I didn't have to live with it the rest of my life. Not everybody gets that opportunity. So this is one of those things I think it really takes some of those kids that maybe are just on the edge, and you can save them with this. So I think it's a great program. It sounds like a great program, and I would encourage our board to push forward with it. Thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bjorkman. Councilor Bondi.
Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to speak again. I would just wonder if there's opportunity to meet before September. Summer is a long time, and we could have, different police officers are coming in and out, and I think the constitution of the police board is changing. So I don't know why we would wait 2 months during a high peak time in Essex, where almost every week I'm getting messages that something else is going on, almost every weekend. Are we really going to wait all summer? I don't know how hard it would be to call a special police service board meeting. Summer, it's just, the youth are counting on us, right? And getting the messaging out. So I wouldn't want to wait 2 months if it was me.
Mayor, aside from the police service board meeting, my next meeting with the OPP, which I do on a monthly basis, is Wednesday, July 13th. I do have this as a topic to discuss with them. I know it's not the same as police service board, but similar when we talked about traffic enforcement and different things in terms of town expectations, that's my goal to express that to them. We'd like to see more of the youth diversion program used.
Thank you, Mr. Sweet. One of the other things too that I might suggest, Ms. Conrad, is that I know a lot of teachers, and I know that there's a lot of frustration in the school boards as well with teachers that see students that perhaps need some guidance that they can't give themselves. But something like a youth diversion program may come as a recommendation in the schools before it ever gets to a point where police have to be involved. So that's something that I would like to see too, as an opportunity where the school boards actually get more involved in youth diversion. Because if you see students going in the wrong direction in grade 5, 6, 7, 8, or sometimes even younger than that, maybe this is something that could help guide them in the right direction again, so they never get to the point where the police have to be involved. Is that something that you foresee possibly happening?
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And actually the school boards, both the Catholic and the public, are very well aware of us. We do presentations throughout both public and Catholic schools throughout Essex County on a number of topics like racism, stereotypes, bullying, and social, online, internet safety type things. However, not every principal is aware of us. Not every teacher, for that matter, is aware of us. And I would definitely like to see more of messaging coming up from up top down, trickling down below, just as with the police, right? When there's that command or direction that is being given, whether it is as an information basis or if it's a directive to say, this is something that we should be utilizing, we should be using this or looking to explore this. It's more fresh in people's minds, again, like that constant messaging or repeated messaging where people are reminded on a regular basis of what youth diversion does. It's easy to forget. And some schools use it all the time, so it's a regular and they're very familiar with our services. And then other schools, some of the smaller schools, not as much. And in the last little bit, we've had quite a bit of contact with a couple of the schools in Essex County for a number of different things. And so now they're very familiar with us, but that doesn't mean that that's everybody, right? And so I'd like to see more involvement from the school trustees. And then, of course, senior administration as well with respect to the school boards to support and encourage the use of diversion.
Conrad, I have Councillor Verbeek.
Thanks again, through you, Mr. Mayor, and to you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if, for starters, I know in September when Ms. Conrad brings this presentation to the Police Service Board, they're going to be supportive of giving direction to our OPP to try and use the diversion as often as possible. However, I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor and our CAO suite, if council tonight can give direction to our CAO to carry support to your next meeting when you meet with the OPP to inform them that you do have support of the Essex Council to encourage them to look to the diversion as a, as a higher ranking option than just to caution the children or to, lay a charge. If you could actually go bring forward support of council in your next OPP meeting. Could I give that direction, or could we as council give that direction to our CIO?
Thank you, Ms. Verbeek. I'm sure that we can, and we can probably just look. I'm looking at across the room here, and I'm looking to see if there's support for that.
Oh, I'll make the motion.
Okay, you want to make the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, supported by Councillor Bowman. All in favor of that motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And I want to thank you again, Ms. Conrad, for being here this evening. And great presentation. And hopefully we can continue to move on, and the town of Essex can help you get this program used in a more common fashion, that it's becomes more popular, because I really do think it's a worthwhile program.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Ms. Conrad, go ahead. You got the mic.
No, sorry, I was just going to say thank you so much, very much to everyone, Mayor Meloche and all the council members and everyone else who may be present. Thank you again for your time, and I look forward to collaborating in the future.
Thank you. And with that said, I need a motion to accept the presentation by Joanna Conrad. Moved by Councillor Guerin and supported by Councillor Bondy. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
I'm going to respectfully log off. Have a wonderful evening and rest of your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'm going to go at item 10, reports from administration. First report is Economic Development 2022-12. This is downtown vacancy report. I'm going to go to Mr. Nelson Silvera, our Manager of Economic Development.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. I don't want to take much of your time tonight. I just wanted to introduce the report here on the downtown vacancy. In 2017, we did a first assessment of the vacancies in the downtown in Essex Center and in Harrow. And we found that both downtowns were sitting at around a 12%, 11 to 12% vacancy. And now, after our assessment in 2022, we're looking at about a 50% reduction in vacancies in both downtowns. There's a lot of information in this report. The one thing that I wanted to get across to council is what I think is a misconception of vacancies. So it is healthy to have some vacancies. If that number is above 12, 13%, that's not a great sign. There's some red flags there. But the number sitting at around 5 or 6% is where we're at right now. It is a healthy mix. There needs to be vacancies in order to attract new businesses and vacancies for businesses to expand within the municipality. So I'll just leave you with that tidbit. And if there's any questions from council, I'd be happy to take them.
Silvera. Councillor Bondy.
Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. Silvera. So the report tells me, I think, three things. One, that having a full-time economic development position pays off, because I've been on council when we had a part-time, and we decided at at the day to have full-time, and we're seeing results from that. So thank you to that. Second thing is that the CIPs are paying off, so I'm happy about that. The third thing I think is we're seeing results of our investment into our downtowns through our streetscapes. So it's, you know, we are meeting our business core halfway, I think. I do have a question in terms of more Harrow centric administration. What are we doing, or what can we do to say get businesses that residents need? You know, when we lost Scott's Discount in Harrow, anytime, no matter what business comes in Harrow, everybody will say, we need a Scott's Discount. And I was like, well, it's market driven. Is there anything that we can do to attract the certain businesses, you know, that sell underwear that we so desperately need in the town of Harrow, where we have to go out of town to get it? And thank you for the report and all the good work.
Thank you. Through your worship, I think that's a really good question. The issue, part of the issue, is that you know, commercial buildings in the downtown are open to any sort of business, whether it's a retail shop or doctor's office. They all fall under that specific zoning, and we don't really have any decision in terms of what a private landowner does with their building. As long as it falls within that specific zoning, then that use is permitted. Furthermore to that, we are working in the My Main Street program right now. We've done some community research in terms of what is needed in the municipality, and some businesses are taking some of that market research that we're providing to them in order to expand their business to provide certain types of items in their stores that will be able to support some of that market research. So if the market research is saying that there's a group of residents that are left out, or a group of consumers that are left out and are looking for those types of products, it's an encouragement to those specific businesses to carry those products. Now, I think in terms of, and I think you have a really good point, right? Attracting specific types of businesses to the downtown, it is difficult, right? Private property owners can attract whatever business they want so long as it meets the zoning. What we're doing is just trying to create a better business climate. And with the Harrow Streetscape, the Essex Streetscape, the My Main Street program, we're going to be doing a business retention expansion strategy. So there may be some recommendations coming out of that within the next couple months that we'll be able to implement that may help us in the attraction of different types of businesses within the Main Street. But as of right now, yes, it remains a difficult task to try to get a nice, diverse group of businesses in the downtown. As you see, we broke it down in the report, right? Between retail, service-based. I think Harrow has more of a service-based business community. I'd like to see a little bit more retail mix in there as well. But we'll continue with our programming in order to recruit some more different types of businesses in the main streets.
Mr. Silvera, I have Deputy Mayor Bjorkman and then Councillor Vanderdolen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Silvera, you have a great report. I love the in-depth part of it as you're talking about the breakdown between retail, sales, service. I think what's going to help us, and what's going to help us a lot in Harrow and Colchester area, is growth. People will make a business or start a business where they know there is a customer base. And I think it's tremendous the amount of growth that's going on in Harrow and around Harrow. And as we have this tool now, it's something that we can share this information. When somebody calls and says, you know, I'm thinking about putting in a retail store, can you give me some data on who's there? I think the amount of information that you have and the way it's broken down makes it very simple for somebody who's coming to run a business, and they have a target market that they're after, and they can see that there. So I think this is a great picture for all of us to look at, but it's a great tool when it comes time to bringing people in. And this research is done. You walk up, this is your target audience, this is who you're after, this is our medium income, this is how things are broken down. So it's a great shot for all of us, a great report, but I think it's going to be a great tool for bringing in some of those businesses that we really need. We need to have those in the South End, and I think this will attract them. So thank you very much.
Councillor Vanderdolen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, great work from Mr. Silvera, as always. There's something I'm pretty sure Mr. Silvera is doing, but I want to say it publicly, and that is that we need to encourage investors and developers, or tell them more that we are willing to expand our downtowns. As Mr. Silvera said, we've got at 5 or 6% very healthy. That's virtually full. Our cores are full. 3% is full for residential. So, and we've got all this new housing coming, as was just mentioned. So there's economic opportunity here. And what I've always fantasized about as a resident when I drive through our old cores is, why can't we build those old buildings like we used to 100 years ago to fill in the gaps for the ones that have burned and the ones that have aged out and we've torn down? We've got the, the like missing teeth in our two core areas. And I'd like to see it permitted that people build right to the sidewalk and up 2 or 3 stories like they used to do, because it looks terrific. That gives our downtown its old Ontario feel. And actually, I know this is happening. This is happening. We just approved it a few weeks ago in Harrow, where there's a new dental office and a new legal office. So people, some of them do know this, but we need to continue to get the word out there to would-be investors and developers that we are willing to do this and we can do this. And we'd like to expand our course. Thanks.
Any further comments or questions? Just one question that I have, or one comment. One of the things that is hard for you, Mr. Silvera, to decipher for us too, is the size of the space. So if you have 10 vacancies and they're all stores that are 200 square feet or less, it's probably either more difficult or easier to try and find a vendor that wants to occupy that kind of an area. Whereas at some point in the future, the Home Hardware building on over on Wilson will at some point in time become vacant. And that'll count as one vacancy, but it's a whole lot more space. So it's going to be interesting as we move forward to see the kind of retail shops that may come into town because of those kind of new vacancies that we have. Any further questions, comments? Can I please have a motion then to receive the Economic Development Report presented by Mr. Nelson Silvera? Moved by Councillor Vanderdolen, supported by Deputy Mayor Bjorkman. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Silvera. Report 10.2 was Drainage Report 2022-07. I'm looking for a motion to receive this report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Vanderdolen. Are there any questions? All in favor of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, I have 10.3, which is Drainage Report 2022-08. And this is in regard to an appointment of an engineer under Section 78 and 76 of the Drainage Act to improve the Argyle Beach drainage system. Looking to have this received and that council appoint NJ Peralta Engineering in accordance with Section 22 of the Town of Essex Procurement Bylaw 2129. Moved by Councillor Vanderdolen and supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? Councillor Bondi and then Councillor Vanderdolen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to either our Drainage Superintendent, Ms. Dean, or our Director of Infrastructure Services, Mr. Gerard. One thing when we get these drainage reports, because I believe in a council orientation, we had a map of all the municipal drains, but one thing I think would be helpful for the public and for us as council is when we click on the report, we can see an outline of what drain is being referenced. It would just be easy, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of drains going on and it's hard to keep up. So if we have a map in there, we can see it because we don't necessarily speak drainage like our experts here. And another thing that I would like to ask, and I do know that our CEO is setting up another roundtable where we can talk about drainage, but when we seem to have a lot of drainage reports, all of these have to go under engineers, or are there any of them that can go through maintenance? Because we seem to have a lot that we're bringing in engineers for. Are there any that we can do in-house with our experts? And thank you. That's it.
Lindsay Dean up on the screen here. Perhaps you can answer some of those questions. Thank you.
Through you,
Lindsay.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bondi. There's different sections of the Act that I can work under. Some of those sections of the Act allow me to do work through maintenance. That's under Section 74 of the Drainage Act. So I do those activities through kind of operations and they don't come to council. However, there's certain sections under the Act like Section 4 petition, Section 78 drainage improvement, or any of the sections that require changes in assessment have to go through a professional engineer. And those engineers we have to hire externally. So whenever you see reports coming from me through council. It's an engineer appointment, and that engineer is hired to act independently and work on behalf of everybody to develop a new standard or a new cost sharing method, depending which section of the act we're working through.
And through you to our drainage engineer or drainage superintendent, this particular job, it says in the report that it will be assessed to the developer. Is that correct, that it's only one person and not anybody else? That's the last one. Thank you.
Christine?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're anticipating the developer is going to be paying 100% of this cost. However, if there are deficiencies identified in the system through the engineer, it'll be up to that engineer to determine what the cost sharing is. And by all means, if anybody else is involved, they will be invited to attend and participate in the process.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Councillor Vanderdolen?
Mayor, through you, I believe it was a couple of years ago that Director Chadwick told us that this piece of property had changed hands and that it was zoned for housing in the 1920s, and that's going ahead. I'd like to know, just a reminder, how many homes are going on this property? I've been dealing with some of the neighbors about their concerns, and how soon would construction start? Like, how long would the study take? How long?
Director Gerard?
Mr. Mayor, so the development itself, we haven't received a formal application for it yet, but I believe it's around 36 lots.
And the length of these studies?
Through you, since we haven't received any application or formalized studies at this time, we haven't, we don't really have a timeline on that right now. I suspect that once the engineer for the developer starts proceeding with work, we'll have a better idea of the timeline.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions? Thank you, Ms. Dean. So call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you unanimously. Next report is 10.4, Operations 2022-06. This is in regard to results of a quotation for a road widener, PW 22-0002. That the report be received and that council award to Cubics Limited the amount of $82,669.82, and that council approve an additional $12,669.82 to be funded from Asset Management Reserve. Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Bowman. Are there any questions? Question to Director Gerard. What is a road widener?
Mr. Mayor, a road widener is used for our operations department to complete some asphalt patching on the road, as well as adding stone to our shoulders. So when you see our operations team out there leveling the road with hot mix asphalt, that's what we're using.
I understand. Thank you. It's an important asset. All in favor of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.5, Capital Works and Asset Management 2022-05 report. This is in regard to engineering services for Erie Blue Sanitary Sewer Extension, local improvement. We're looking to have the report received and that council award the engineering services to Highland International Canada, Inc. in the amount of $152,281.81. Moved by Councillor Vanderdolen, supported by Deputy Mayor Bjorkman. Are there any questions? Councillor Vanderdolen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was out there today looking at this site, and I guess there's room for, looks like 18 homes, but there's a really large, deep water-filled ditch that's connected straight to Lake Erie, and it would look like it would take like a $500,000 bridge to get across that lagoon, it looks like, to get to the lots. This is right on the border with the Amherstburg. I just wonder, like, is this already, are the lots laid out? Like, where's the access to these lots? It didn't appear logical to me.
Who can speak to this? Okay, Director Gerard?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the actual local improvement for the sanitary sewers will be brought from the east and heading westerly towards the Amherstburg border. So the crossing of the sanitary sewer will not actually need to cross the wetlands or the ditch along what I believe is Smith Road, or an extension of Smith Road. So there shouldn't be an issue there. The intention of this project being initiated by the residents is to install sanitary sewers only for existing residents.
Supplementary, are these existing homes?
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. So the residents along Erie Blue Drive submitted a petition in 2021 to have sanitary sewers installed along their roadways and disconnect them from their septic tank.
Excellent, all in favor of it. I just wasn't sure about what I saw. Thank you.
Director Gerard, do we know how many homes that would involve?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are 18 homes that are impacted or that will be provided a service with this sanitary sewer. I believe at the time when we initiated the local improvement process, all but one were in favor of proceeding with.
Thank you very much. Based on the dollar amounts that we're talking here, they're getting a really good deal. Sanitary sewer systems right now are running between $35,000 and $45,000 if you want to put one in your own backyard. So we're looking at under $10,000 for each of these residents to have connection.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could just follow up, I just want to identify that the estimate that we put together was put together in 2021 to provide context for those residents. We've seen some major inflationary increases lately. Although those costs will come out as part of the engineer's report, which is what we're looking to have created with the awarding of this contract tonight by council. So the actual costs or the estimated costs will likely wash out as part of this study and this engineering report.
If it's a 400% increase, they may still be getting a deal. Thank you. All in favor of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.6, Environmental Services 2022-02. This is in regard to Harrow Lagoon sludge removal, cell number 2, additional works. That the report be received and that council appoint Ontario Clean Water, Aqua, to provide engineering, operational, and contract administration services for the Harrow Lagoon sludge removal project in the amount of $250,000 from the Aqua Capital Recommendations, Ward 4, in accordance with the previously completed request under Section 22 of the Town of Essex Procurement Bylaw 2129. Moved by Councillor Bowman, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Going to item number 12, County Council update. I need to have someone move the minutes of the regular County Council meeting held June 1st, moved by Deputy Mayor Bjorkman and supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on to correspondence, item 13. This is correspondence to be received. I'm looking to have all correspondence listed in agenda item number 13.1 be received. And if there's any items that any particular council would like to pull out, we'll do that afterwards. So I need a motion to receive all of these items. Moved by Councillor Bowman and supported by Deputy Mayor Bjorkman. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Are there any items that any Councillor Bondy?
Further to the response from the Windsor Essex Catholic District School Board, I did talk to the school board chair of the Greater Essex County District School Board to get more information to share in public tonight about why the VIP program is not in the public board. And so the Greater Essex County District School Board is undertaking a review of police and schools, one program in which the VIP program was in elementary schools. The review will be done externally to both keep its findings impartial and gather relevant information from both local and larger global context surrounding policing in schools. This commitment to review is also reinforced by our board's recently released Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Strategy, Section 2.8 of the strategy. And specifically, I have a link I can share if wanted. So this work is multifaceted, especially with the Greater Essex County District School Board's commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and our actions to further provide our students and families with safe, welcoming, inclusive environments. So I thought it was good, in case we don't hear back from both school boards, as to why the Greater Essex County District School Board has their VIP program on pause. Thank you.
So you're willing just to receive this as well? Okay, thank you. Just a comment. All in favor of the motion then? That's carried again unanimously. Thank you. We don't have any other correspondence, so we'll go right to 14 committee meeting minutes. I'm looking for a motion to receive all the meeting minutes listed in agenda item number 14. These include 3 sets of Committee of Adjustment meetings from March the 15th, 20th, and May the 17th. Coan Park Board from May the 11th, Quarter Revision from June the 14th in regard to the Long Marsh Drain, and then Drainage Board 23rd in regard to the 10-11 side road drain. Need a motion? Councilor Verbeek, supported by Councilor Guerin. Are there any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Under financial, item number 15, the 2022 May bank payment report, that the bank payments report for the month of May be ratified as submitted. Moved by Councilor Bowman, supported by our Deputy Mayor Bjorkman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have no new business. Under notice is a motion. We have several. The first item is, and I'm going to pass this over as traditionally I have been. I'm going to pass this over to our clerk, Mr. Robert Auger.
Mr. Mayor, the following notices of motion, being 4 notices of motion under 17.1, were first presented at the June 6th regular council meeting and subsequently deferred at the June 20th meeting, and are now brought forward this evening for council's consideration. The first one under 17.1.1 is a notice of motion from Councilor Vanderdolen that council discuss the difficulty some farmers in Ward 3 have been encountering while trying to get raw water lines and other infrastructure approved for their food growing operations. Once again, as moved by Councilor Vanderdolen, and would require a seconder.
Councilor Vanderdolen, did you want to speak on it? Issue?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been going on a while. Every once in a while, I get a call from somebody who's trying to get services, and they're negotiating the system and all the hoops they got to jump through for us. And I've heard a couple of times something similar, like I'm getting similar experiences from different people, and that is they're having trouble getting something done that seems normal in other communities. This most recent one was an industrial scale farmer who was trying to put a water line from one property to another property line, and he was told repeatedly, you can't do this, you can't take water out of that pond, you can't do this. And I know that there's a he said, she said aspect to this, but they were having trouble negotiating with neighbors, and so they approached the town and asked to put a water line under the town, on the town right of way. And they were told, no, we don't do that. At first they were told we do, and then they were told we don't. Now they eventually solved this on their own, so we don't have to fix that. But as I worked through this and I did some research, I found out that, for instance, Leamington has 20 or 30 kilometers of water line to greenhouses and farming operations on the public right of way. And in the Niagara region, they have hundreds of kilometers of water lines on the public right of way for farms. And our farming is becoming more intensified. We're going to be having more greenhouses and more irrigation. So we need to come up with, I think, some kind of a streamlined process to get this done, because we can't just keep telling them no when they're investing millions of dollars and ensuring our food supply in the future. So there seems to be a consistent set of problems here, and these people deal in multiple municipalities, and they're saying it's more difficult here. So I think we need to find a way to streamline it somehow. I don't know how that could be done, but I'm just throwing it out there for discussion.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or on the issue? So I'll just say something here too. So I'm a little bit familiar with this, and I think too that we don't have a process right now for raw water lines. And I think that's something that our infrastructure department would probably look at. But I think in a lot of instances, you see the developer want the municipality to take on the responsibility and bring forward the information. So I think it's if it's something that developers want, that they have to come to the table and try and have some kind of back and forth negotiation, consultation, conversation to try and figure out where we want to bring this. But I definitely do believe what you believe, Councillor Vanderdolen, that we as a town should try and work towards maybe having some kind of policy in place and procedure. Right now is a difficult time because we're under such pressures with the other developments that are happening that it's difficult just to grab somebody out of the air and say, hey, can you set this policy up? Because we do have so much development going on. We have some new staffing in place as well that I think makes it rather difficult to try and accomplish something right now. So if developers have an answer for right now, I think that this is maybe something we should stall for a little bit just until we've got a grasp of the new people understanding what their responsibilities are and maybe having it assigned to the right person. But I totally agree with you. This is something that we need to put in place in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I agree with all that. I'm not expecting anything to happen quickly. I just felt that we need to say this publicly and recognize that we want the same goals as these farmers, and but it's not going to happen quickly. But we are aware of it, and we hope to streamline it somehow in the future. Thanks.
Perhaps you can put a motion forward then after Councillor Bondi's going to comment here as well, but maybe put a motion forward saying that we look at this in the future to have some kind of policy.
4 or 5 years ago, when we were starting to get a few greenhouses, the question came up is, I remember asking the former CAO, are we going to get more and more greenhouses? And before, Chris Nepsey said that our water infrastructure, our pipes were too small to support greenhouses. I don't know if that's related to this issue, not having enough pressure, not being able to get the water from, I don't know, the water department down to the greenhouses, but I think, I don't know, maybe that's part of it. Maybe this can come back to our roundtable once our staff have had an issue to digest it. And, and now that we're talking about it in public, maybe more developers or people, we have an issue with water pressure in Ward 1, right? Maybe we should talk water at our next roundtable as well. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll come back to Councillor Vanderdolen if you want to make your motion from there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I move that when time permits, the administration explore possible ways of streamlining the use of private water supplies on the public right-of-way. This is private water. This has nothing to do with treated water from the Ruthven plant or from Union Water. It has nothing to do with pressure either. It's just private lines using our public right-of-way, just kind of like fiber.
Order, Mr. Mayor, we already have a motion on the table, so we should deal with that first motion of having this discussion before we move to the next motion.
Very good, thank you. So your first motion, we had the discussion. I'll ask the question. All in favor of the first motion that we had the discussion? That's carried unanimously, thank you. And now the second motion, and I'm looking for someone to support Councillor Vanderdolen's motion, supported by Deputy Mayor Bjorkman. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The second notice of motion in front of council this evening for its consideration as first presented back at the June 6th meeting, as moved by Mayor Meloche, that council direct administration to review the feasibility of developing a regulation or bylaw limiting storage of any type, class, or classification of fireworks in any one location that totals in excess of 100 pounds for not longer than 3 months from the date of delivery into the town of Essex.
Pass the gavel over to the Deputy Mayor, so I can speak on this. So I'm moving.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor. So I'm just looking at this one and I threw in 100 pounds. It's not an expert's opinion. I threw in 100 pounds. But this is to keep us from getting into a situation again where we have excessive containers full of fireworks stored in our municipality somewhere where we don't like. This gives us an avenue, I believe, to say we don't want this in our community any longer. And that's the reason why I put this forward. If you have excess of 100 pounds, you can always come and ask if you're going to store it for more than 3 months. But this gives us an avenue to say that this is something we don't want in our community. Why I'm asking for it. Thank you.
Comments from council? Seeing none, we'll ask the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, now we'll move on to 17.1.3. Mr. Ogier, if you would read that out.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. As moved by Mayor Meloche and would require a seconder, whereas the cost of gasoline is becoming unaffordable to the average family in person, whereas many students have difficulty with regular and affordable transportation back and forth for schooling opportunities, and whereas the town of Essex is committed to being environmentally responsible and wanting to reduce traffic congestion, whereas there is potential provincial funding available for a large portion of the cost of transit service, and whereas transit from the Windsor area to Colchester would complement our tourism strategy for that region. Therefore, that town council direct administration to include $60,000 in the 2023 budget for a consultant to prepare a document on the feasibility, funding, and operation process in secure and public transit for a route from St. Clair College to Colchester.
Seconder for that motion. Councilor Matty. Mr. Mayor.
So Deputy Mayor, I'm actually going to amend this, amend the motion. And the reason why is because Transit Windsor has actually reached out to us since they heard about this coming forward to Town Council, Essex Town Council. They're very interested in helping us along. And they actually have someone who would work out all these numbers for us. So there's no need to put money aside. But I would suggest, so I'm going to take the $60,000 out. But I would like to leave the motion that there be a discussion in 2023 at budget time, just so that everybody's aware of what dollars are available or what dollars aren't available. And I think all of us would agree that this is something that would be beneficial to a lot of our community. And it's something that a lot of people have been asking for years. So thank you.
Fine with the amended motion. Any conversation from any councilors? Councilor Verbeek.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to the mayor. Thanks for making some noise about this. Thanks for bringing it forward and, getting Windsor Transit to the table. And I hope this gets some traction and takes off. Thanks again.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask the question. All in favor? That passes unanimously.
And I'll ask Mr. Ogier if he could continue.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, under 17.1.4, again, a notice of motion before council this evening. As moved by Councilor Bondi, that Essex Council send a letter to the province of Ontario and the federal government to share concerns on behalf of the residents with respect to the increases in the price of gasoline, and once again would require a seconder.
Oh, Deputy Mayor was second. Okay, Deputy Mayor, supported. Councilor Bondi, did you want to speak on behalf of this?
Real quick, now that we have a new provincial or recycled provincial government, I guess, mostly, maybe we can just drop them a line that we're hearing our residents' concerns. I hear I hear it on a daily basis, right? The cost of living, you can't buy strawberries, you can't buy gas. So just, speaking on behalf of our residents, that we understand that costs are high and it's going to affect municipal budgets down the line, right? We're going to be negatively impacted by this cost. So just trying to make a little bit of noise. Thanks.
Council or Deputy Mayor Bjorkman.
Chair, so I'm looking, it's a great idea. I mean, none of us are happy with the amount of money we're spending on gas, but is there a particular ask that we have? It's one thing to say, hey, we're not happy, gas is expensive, and we're all there. That is the discussion, we need to do it. But is there something in particular that we can say, I believe the province has now knocked down some of their percentage, but the federal government hasn't taken anything out of what they're making off every gallon. And the more it goes up, they're getting more than their share. So I think we should have in there that what we want from them is some financial break. And if the province has already come to the table since this came up, actually, but we can still ask the feds to slash some of theirs so that, and I think that gives us an ask. And I think we should have an ask in that. Yeah.
Councillor Vanderdolen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's unfair to treat the province and the federal government the same way, exactly the same way in this, since we just got a major tax break from one of those governments. We should at least recognize that they did something, maybe ask the same from the federal government. But I just have to point out that it's hypocritical of this council to, on the one hand, support all these climate change actions, which have played a major role in driving up the costs. We can't, on the one hand, oppose gas, oppose oil, oppose drilling, and then wonder why the prices go up. I mean, these are linked. I mean, it's climate change policies that's blocked some of those pipelines in BC and Alberta and with the one east to Montreal, and we're talking out of both sides of our mouth here. So just wanted to say that.
The other thing I'd like to mention too, and Miss Eunice would probably agree with us, that we get a lot of grant money from gas tax. So it's a catch-22 for us. A lot of our municipality grants are funded through gas tax. So the answer might come back to us saying, okay, fine, that money that we give you as a grant to the municipalities, we'll cut that back. We'll take that out of the gas price and reduce your grant that you're going to get for your municipality. So it is a catch-22. But if we want to send a letter, maybe Councillor Bonnie, you can suggest how you would like to have that proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an amendment. Perhaps that Essex Council send a letter to the federal government asking them to match the decrease that the provincial government. Is that okay?
OJ, are you okay with that? Okay, sounds good. Is the mover okay with that, or seconder support? Okay, any further questions? All in favor of the motion then? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Under 17.2 this evening, this motion was first presented at the June 20th regular council meeting, and it is also brought forward this evening for council's consideration. As moved by Councillor Bondy, that Essex Council invite both Hydro One and ELK Energy to a special council meeting to have a public discussion about the causes and the solutions to the ongoing power flickers and outages in the municipality of Essex. Again, as moved by Councillor Bondy and would require a seconder.
Supported by Councillor Verbeek. Councillor Bondy.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if Essex wards 1 and wards 2 have the same amount, but there is an increase in flickers almost to the 2017, 2018, if not more. I would say once a day, sometimes more than once a day. It is very disruptive to the lives of our residents and business owners out there. They're continuing to lose appliances. If you go on the Power Watch group, you can just see, and it's all listed, and it is in Hydro One territory. But I think it would be a good idea, if they want to meet separately, let's meet separately. But I think it's a good idea to have them at the table. We have had ELK here, but they're only presenting their finances, their audited financial statements. We have not once had ELK at a public meeting where we can talk about asset management. We have not once had Hydro One at a public meeting where we can talk about asset management. We have had a couple counselors or, perhaps maybe a past CEO go and meet with Hydro One, but we have not had them in the public, to talk to them in the public realm. And I think that it has reached the tipping point. It's beyond the tipping point, to be honest, so that we invite them here. What's the worst they could say is no. I do understand that there are upgrades being done in Hydro One territory. They're in year 2.5 out of 4, but it is not enough. I think that there's more little safeguards and little twitches that they could do. I do know that they're paying attention. I do know that people are calling in more, which is great. We have to keep reminding people to call in their, to their provider when the flickers happen. But I would really appreciate it if council would invite them here, because it is really disruptive. So I'm not sure what the rest of council thinks, but I think it's time to have them. We'll roll out the red carpet here and maybe have a special council meeting with them.
Echo that sentiment. We lose our power twice a day, every day in Colchester. And there's, it's the, read on the side, there's no storm. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's just clouds. Just the wind's not even blowing and power goes out. And it happens every day and usually twice a day. And so for a lot of people that have automatic machines and things that work, some of them don't reset. It comes back on, but it doesn't turn itself back on. And I've got a couple things that, you don't know it wasn't on for the last 4 hours, and all of a sudden you go back to use it and, there's no power to it. So I do think we are beyond, we got better. I would have to say, like a year ago, we were improved and there was a noticeable difference what was going on. But we are right back to as bad as it was. So I think it's worth reaching out to them, to Hydro One. I'm in the Hydro One area, and asking, if they can share with us more of their plan. And I think people crave information. They just want to know why. Why is this happening again? And all we can say is, well, I call them, you call them, and they say they're working on it. Our people, we've got a plan. We're going out for 4 years, but something has changed again. So if they can just come and talk with us, it would be wonderful if they would agree to do that. And we would give our residents at least the knowledge that somebody's heard them and somebody's come and given an answer. Even if it's not a satisfactory answer, they still came and they answered the question. Thank you.
Any further comments? Councillor Meady.
Yeah, the last couple of days, I was taking a look at how many power outages there were, and it's more than actually twice a day. We, on a couple of times, we had 3 of them in a day, and at different hours, different times, sometimes in the middle of the night. And there's also a list of a lot of damage that's been done to people's electronics, dishwashers, washing and dryers, computers, anything with a circuit board. And it's racking up. So I would definitely like to hear why and if there's a plan out of it.
Comments? Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good ask to have them come here and let us know publicly, why these flickers are happening so often. We're not experiencing as much of them in Ward 1. I'm more concerned about why some are getting with the losses, the loss of appliances and others don't. It's just crazy amount of reports I'm hearing from people that are losing their appliances but my neighbor isn't. So I'd like to know, because we are all tired of hearing about it over the past years, even though I will say that I have been hearing less of it of late, and then it just started back up again. But yeah, I mean, people are losing appliances, spending money. Is there anywhere they can report that? Are they reporting it to the right people? And why some and not everybody? Like if I'm running the same type of computer equipment in my home as Councillor Meady is, and he's losing his TV and he's losing his computer and I'm not, why is that? Is there also problems maybe from the road to me that is maybe the problem? We need those answers, because the guessing game, it's getting tiring. So I'll support this as well.
Councillor Van der Dolen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll support this too. Although there's a complete difference between ELK and Hydro One. I'm served by Hydro One as well, and every outage that Councillor Meady's had, I've had. Every outage that Councillor Bjorkman has had, I've had. But I have to say, in 22 years, I have never lost a TV, and we have about 4 of them. I've never lost a refrigerator or freezer. We have 4 of those. I've never lost a computer. We have, I don't know, about 8 of those. So I don't understand where these complaints of equipment blowing up are coming from, because I have not experienced that, even though we have had hundreds of outages from Hydro One, not ELK. I will support this. Thanks.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I was going to support the motion without speaking to it, but that's really important piece of it. I'd like to know too, why some people are experiencing loss. I know when I lost all my appliances, it was from a surge, because the line in front of the house blew. But this is different, and that's one of the important questions that they'll be able to answer by coming forward and by inviting them. They're, this will help us bring the answers to the residents. So of course I'll be supporting it too.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councilor Bundy? Yes. Any further comments? So I'm just going to make one comment here. I would like to see Hydro One. I'm not sure about ELK Energy. And the only reason why is because ELK Energy, the only thing that they're going to do is they're going to point to Hydro One. This is a Hydro One issue. So providing power, because the power comes right through Harrow into Colchester. And if we're not getting the power right from Kingsville, that's direct, that's really where our issue is. I know ELK has worked diligently to try and work with Hydro One already to try and say, hey, there are issues. We know there's issues here. Can you help work with us? And they have been an advocate of trying to make things work. I think we need to have Hydro One. One of their key points is we are a customer service oriented company. If you are complaining, we are going to get the results and get you answers. I've read it over and over again when I look at their service model that they have. So I would really like to have Hydro One in here just to speak to us. One of the other things, though, that I think we should be doing is using our new MPP, Anthony Liardi. We now have somebody who has a direct link to the provincial party that's in power, and maybe that'll make a difference in talking with the OEB to try and say, hey, we've got a real problem down here. And it's because it's not something that typically a municipality has the power or the whereabouts to be able to force Hydro One to come to the table and resolve this. And they may give us a lot of yeses. Yes, we understand, and we're doing the best we can. We've got our budget. We're working towards that, but we may not get anything faster than what they're already promising. If we're looking to actually have something promised to us that's going to happen quicker than what is happening right now or is scheduled to happen, then I think we have to go through our MPP to try and get something changed at that level, provincial level. Councillor Bondy?
What I'm hearing is a friendly amendment to remove Elk Energy for now, right? Okay, that's fine with me.
You're okay with that? Okay. Thank you. So any further comments? I'll ask the question then. All in favor, the motion? Oh, sorry, recorded vote.
On the motion, as moved by Councillor Bondy, seconded by Verbeek, with agreed upon friendly amendment, that Essex Council invite Hydro One to a special council meeting to have a public discussion about the causes and the solutions to the ongoing power flickers and outages in the municipality of Essex. As recorded vote, as requested by Councillor Bondy. Councillor Bondy, how do you vote?
Support.
Bondy supports. Councillor Vanderdolen, how do you vote?
Support.
Councillor Vanderdolen supports. Councillor Meady, how do you vote? Supports. Councillor Guerin, how do you vote?
Support.
Guerin supports. Councillor Verbeek, how do you vote?
Support.
Verbeek supports. Councillor Bowman, how do you vote?
Support.
Councillor Bowman supports. Mayor Meloche, how do you vote?
Support.
Mayor Malash supports. And Deputy Mayor Bjorkman, how do you vote? Mayor Bjorkman supports. So with a recorded vote of 8 in support and none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you. And last notice of motion, Mr. Ogier.
Mayor, the following notice of motion is being presented only this evening and will be brought back for council's consideration at the July 18th meeting. Notice of motion from Councillor Bondi that Council of the Town of Essex direct administration to cease the multi-residential waiving of development fees unless the new proposal is deemed to qualify for affordable housing.
Thank you. And we'll go to reports and announcements from council members. I'll go in alphabetical order. So I'm starting with Councillor Bondi. Oh, no, Bjorkman, sorry, Bjorkman. Deputy Mayor Bjorkman. Sorry.
July 23rd at the Mason Masonic Lodge on 30 Laird Street, we're doing an Essex Center clothes swap from 10 till 3 for children. So if you can donate, get in touch with me. We'll still take donations. I'd like to freshen the stock, and we're getting some bikes donated, which is pretty cool. We have Andrew Bottoms from AB Bike Store in town here is fixing the bikes to make sure that they're all safety for the children. So I've been driving around, grabbing some bikes, and hope to have another successful clothing swap. So mark your calendar. Thank you.
See everybody at the Fun Fest this weekend.
Mayor. Yes, the Fun Fest after a 2-year hiatus is finally here and upon us. If you need me for the next 7 days, I'll be at 60 Fairview Avenue. Doing my thing. Actually, thanks to the committee, I think we put together a pretty good festival this year, more than a pretty good festival. Probably the best we're going to see that we've had in years. Starting Thursday at 5 o'clock and ending Sunday at 6 o'clock. There's something literally for all ages. Downtown, enjoy the sidewalk sales all weekend, the parade. We've got the car show back. It won't be on Main Street, but it will be on Fairview. All that stuff is free. Inside the gates, we've got the Midway, we have the beer tent, we have the main stage, we have the kids zone, food, lots of stuff for everyone to do. So hoping for clear skies and a lot of people. Thanks.
Councillor Vanderdolen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to point out that Ward 3 is the only ward with 2 golf courses, and I managed to golf both of them this week, and they were great. No, actually, Oxley has reopened, and it's in great condition, and so was Sutton Creek, and I see that they're spending at least another $1 million improving the tee boxes there. So it was a great week for golf in Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Verbeek.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. Of course, one more plug for the Fun Fest. I just want to encourage people that don't know about our Sip and Shop event. It's a new event with the Fun Fest this year. Thursday night, there's still time for tickets. And it's an opportunity to make some give 10% of $10 from every $30 ticket is going to the community living. Also, Friday night, we have a Van Halen tribute band, and Eric Etheridge on Saturday night is going to draw a big crowd right before the fireworks start. And I know that Councillor Guerin mentioned that it was, the hard work of a committee, but it's a very small committee, to be honest, and he's a bloody workhorse. I cannot believe what he's done to pull this event together with a small team behind him. Thanks.
And I have nothing this evening either, so we can move on to bylaws.
Under bylaws for third reading this evening, we have 2170, which is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings from the June 20th regular council meeting.
Deputy Mayor Bjorkman and Councillor Vanderdolen, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Your bylaws for 2 readings, we have bylaw 2174 being a bylaw to amend 1248, being an agreement being a subdivision agreement, and this relates to the Woodview Estate subdivision.
Aye. Counselor Bowman, supported by Counselor Meady. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Also for two readings this evening is bylaw 2175, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the town of Essex and the city of Windsor relating to children's services and school age recreation programs.
Aye. Counselor Garin, supported by Counselor Verbeek. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
And under bylaws for, bylaw 2177 is actually for three readings, and that's a bylaw to appoint an assistant manager, capital works and asset management for the town of Essex.
Deputy Mayor Bjorkman and Counselor Bowman, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
And then for two readings is bylaw 2176 to confirm the proceedings of this July 4th regular council meeting.
Moved by Counselor Meady, supported by Counselor Verbeek. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And before we adjourn, I just want to say thank you for everyone who stuck it out with us, watching through the meeting, and have a great evening. Motion to adjourn, Counselor Meady and Deputy Mayor Bjorkman. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone.